Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Real Talk with Ben podcast. And whether you're listening in the morning, in the afternoon, or at night, or just maybe days in the future, years in the future, whenever you're listening to this, I really appreciate it. And thanks for joining us. And if you are new, my name is Ben, as obviously the title says, but I'm so glad that you decided to join us. And this episode is kind of completely 180 of what literally the last 5 episodes have been. But before we get to that, I just want to talk about what has been going on since the last episode. It's really only been like 2 days, but one, I'm still very sore. I've been, as I said last episode, we've been clearing out a whole bunch of brush and just making the place look really beautiful. And we are all very tired and very exhausted. My body is telling me I shouldn't do that again, but it's ministry, so I'm doing it. But no, it's been really fun, and it's been good to get to know new people as well, and working side by side with them. And I met one of the guys I met. I kind of just knew that he was in the kitchen staff, and now he was helping out side with us. And, we just got talking about England and things like that. And it's really cool. And I really do enjoy that. It's one thing that the quarantine has really taught me. And as if you see the title of this episode, you'll understand why I just said that. But yeah, so it's been kind of interesting. Like I said, I've been very sore, so that hasn't changed. But something else did happen, and it came in the mail, or I had it delivered to myself. Yes, Ben, that's what the mail means. Anyways, so in Europe, I wanted to find a way to basically have less percentage come out of what I'm trying to either withdraw or spend at a restaurant. So obviously the way it works, if you want to exchange money or you want to withdraw from an ATM from my American bank, obviously they take some percentage. Whereas I can put money on this specific card that I got, and I can use it with a lower percentage, and I'll be able to withdraw with 0%. But anyways, it's called Revolut, and I'll link it below if you were interested. If you live in Europe, or even if you're interested, I think they're coming in America, I think, but it's really cool. I enjoy it. The only reason I wanted to talk about on this episode, literally the only reason, is because this cool case. And I'm sorry if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. I guess you just have to go to YouTube and watch it later. But I'll show you. It just is really cool. So here we go. Whoop. Oh, isn't that cool? Whoop. It's so cool. So if you didn't see it, if you're not watching, basically it slides out. And it just it's a cool holder case. And I think I just never mind. I thought I broke it. But yeah, so that's kind of, I guess that's kind of new. That's something new. And yeah, so that's about the only thing that's really been new for me in the last couple of days. But what I wanted to talk about today, and it is completely 180, but yeah, it's still sort of related to what these last few weeks have been, is my top quarantine things to do right now in quarantine, or in the past few weeks, or really, I think if I ever go through a quarantine again, which I don't plan to, but these are some things that I've really enjoyed doing. And I think for all of us, we all could do it. But my number, do I start with 5 or 1? I'm going to start 1 through 5. So number 1 is reading. I have been reading quite a bit. I actually, now that I say that, I haven't read in a few days actually, because just with this new work schedule and everything. But yeah, I've been trying to read quite often. I've been reading the book I've showed you a few weeks ago. I'm still finishing that book, but I'm also reading some more poetry and there's another book. I'm trying to look around my room. I don't think I see it, but so I've been reading a couple new things as well. And I want to kind of tie in reading with journaling. I said this maybe 3 episodes ago. I said I was never much of a journaler. A journaler? Yes. Or a guy that journals, until actually I came here. I would occasionally do it. When I was in college, I would occasionally do it. But I didn't really do it in a sense of just talking about life or whatever. And that's what's been really cool is this quarantine has given me the opportunity, and not wanting the quarantine really. I started before then, but quarantine's even given me more time to write, which is really, really cool. Um, so yeah, I think journaling and reading kind of go hand in hand with that. It's one of those things where I love journaling because, um, I don't know, like it's cool to think that in like a year or even in 5, 10 years, like I can look back at this journal and go like, oh yeah, I remember that. And it kind of plays back that picture in your mind, and those memories come alive. And that's what I really, really like. So yeah, that's number one. Number two for me, number two is, walking. Yeah. Walking. Y'all might be thinking I'm a little crazy while I'm saying that, but I'll put it in perspective. So obviously, all the staff that doesn't live here on the campus, they can obviously walk outside. They can go, to the store if they need to, with the proper, space and everything, and keeping their distance, but they can do that. For us here, we're not allowed to leave the campus at all because we're living on campus, but we have 78 acres. And that is a lot of land. And, being able to walk has really been a joy of mine. And I wasn't really much one at home, just like the first one of reading and journaling. This wasn't something I did at home very often. In fact, I feel like I did a little bit last summer when I worked at Cedarville. Like I would occasionally go on long walks, or, even in college, like I would walk occasionally, but I wouldn't do it as like a way to get away. I would kind of just do it because I would take the long way around or whatever. But being able to walk has allowed me the time to, just pray, to think about, what God has been doing in my life, think about what's next, what's in the future. And, it kind of gives me a time away from everyone. And I don't mean that in a bad way. But we all live in a tight quarters. I'm next to Diego, and Janos is down the hallway and the girls are close by. And so we're all in that tight space. And sometimes, I just need to go out and to release a little bit. And that's also a nice thing about I have a balcony. So, I guess with walking, it would kind of be just being like getting outside. And we also have basketball courts. So, we have a little gym that is somewhat of a gym. And obviously working outside the last few days has really also given me that time to think. And I really challenge people. I think taking walks not only help with exercise, which is something that I think over the last 6 months I've struggled at. It's given me a time to exercise, but it also, I think it allows you to just, I think, take a break from life, not get away from life. I never really liked the idea of getting away from life, but taking a break from what is going on to focus and to refocus. And that's something that I think is really important when we're going through life and when things are hard. And, for ministry, I've noticed that even over the last few months is, life is going to get hard and ministry is going to get hard, but we have to look at it as how can I as a Christian, how can I as a godly man, turn the focus, onto Christ and to not focus on me. And so that's really been a great thing. And so that's number two is walking and just having space outside, which has been really, really cool. Number three is Netflix. Fun fact about this one, actually. I just shake the camera. I'm so sorry. Fun fact about number three of Netflix is this. I used to watch Netflix quite a bit. I would say, well, it was weird. I went to Spain, like different, I guess, different on and off points. So like at the beginning, end of high school, beginning of college, I watched it a lot, would watch movies and stuff. And then I would go like take breaks. I would watch more YouTube or like other movies, just like on my, or play video games or watch movies on my PS4 or whatever. And then I would go back on, and I really, and I obviously started, watching it a lot. And I share my account with somebody here in Hungary, which is awesome. I love being able to help out, which is great. And I'll get to that in a point, but there's an issue with that now. But anyways, going back to watching Netflix, it's awesome. because like last summer was when I really got back into Netflix. So I took like almost a 2-year break where I really didn't use Netflix, and I actually almost thought about getting rid of it, but I kept it. Um, and I loved watching it last year. Last summer I was watching a ton of different TV shows and movies, and it was really cool. And then this past fall when Disney Plus came out, that's a fun fact too, because my dad, because of Verizon, they had a deal. So we got Disney Plus, and I was super excited. And so I really never watched Netflix like at all. I was watching Disney Plus nonstop, a lot of different TV shows, a lot of movies, some great ones. And then I came here and I'm like, okay, I want to get on Disney Plus. First day I get here, I go on a Disney Plus, and I realized that Disney Plus was only available in the UK. It hadn't made it to all the other European countries. So I was really bummed. And obviously, like I said, I hadn't been on Netflix in a while. And so I got back on, but I realized that my friend that we both share it, he is now we're both in Hungary now. You know, it used to be 6 hours ahead. You know, I'd be 6 hours behind. So we never would cross usually. Very rarely would we. But now it's like we kind of like are either asking each other, or like I'll like get on. I'm like, oh, okay, he's on. So because I'm not going to pay the extra money for multiple screens. I know you all are going to say that. I don't want to. But yeah, so that's been something I've been enjoying. I've been in a couple different TV shows. I've been watching. What are some of the movies I watch? Well, actually, as you're listening to this, I'm hoping on Friday I'll watch a marathon of Lord of the Rings. But I've been watching just some classic movies, some John Wick, just some really good movies that I enjoy watching, and some TV shows that are some really good TV shows. But yeah, so that's number 3. I've been able to do a lot more of that, which I feel like I never really had the time anyways when I was like in college or whatever. But that's number 3. Number 4 is new foods. And this one's kind of interesting. I think a lot of people might think it's kind of interesting. But for me, it's interesting because new foods, what I mean by this is not necessarily that there's like new quarantine foods, which would be weird. But new foods in the sense of, because we're not eating, like I would still be eating some new foods if, you know, that we were running as normal. But when we switched, we went to the bunker, which is like a separate place. And it's kind of interesting because, the cool part about it is, Juji, who's our normal cook, she obviously went home because of the quarantine, and now Mark, who I've talked about previously, he's cooking for us, but he's cooking all these really cool new foods, from some Mexican food to some different European food. And it's really been cool, because it's allowing, I think, all of us to try different foods, but also enjoy, I guess, talking about it too. I think that's one of the cool things about foods is like you get to hear each other's opinions. Like, people know I'm a very picky eater. So this has definitely got me out of my comfort zone, which is fine. I don't mind that. But yeah, so it's definitely something that I'm enjoying, trying new foods, and also trying new like desserts, which is something I love. Having our director's wife living like basically on the other side of the castle, and some other young ladies have been making us great desserts. I mean, it's desserts I've never had. So, yeah. I don't know where I'm going with that, but yeah. So, yeah. So it's been really cool just to have different desserts, different foods, soups, breakfast stuff, because it's just, I don't know. It's a time that, I'm so sorry. I lost my train of thought. Yeah. So it's really cool just to, try new foods. Like I said, I am so sorry. This new foods went off on a tangent, but the new foods, yeah, I really enjoyed, just being able to, like I said, try those new foods, but then also be able to cook new foods. I have been able to cook new foods, on the skillet. We have like a little hot plate. We don't have, an oven, obviously, in the bunker because of just different things. Obviously, we can't because it's a very small space. So I've been able to use a skillet on a hot plate, and I've made some eggs. I made some different types of scrambled eggs with omelet. Wow, omelet. Uh, with that kind of being like the starting point, um, which is really nice because I love eggs, but then being able to try new things and to stretch my cooking ability. You know, I consider myself a decent like cook. I don't think I'm great, but I don't think I'm bad. So it's been really cool to try new recipes and new foods. So that is number 4. And I'm so sorry that new foods kind of went off a tangent. I was like losing my train of thought, which is classic Ben, and it's nothing new. But moving on to number 5, and I believe it's the most important one. And I honestly believe it's probably the most important for anybody, but especially I think for I think young people that have recently graduated college. I think for everyone, but especially young people that graduated college. But I think also it has also given us. It also gives you the opportunity to maybe talk with people that are the older generation or your neighbors. And so what I mean by talking with friends is this, and how it kind of applies to me is I've been able to um, FaceTime and Facebook chat and WhatsApp calls to family and friends. And I think I've said that in previous episodes. I can't remember. Maybe they all start running together after a time. But going back to that, it's been really cool just to talk to friends like, my friend Jesse and my friend Ryan. That's what's really cool is like having technology and having the opportunity to use it to still stay connected with, friends back home, stay connected with, family back home is really important. And that's why, for me, I think talking with friends has really helped me through this quarantine time. It's because of being quarantined, especially the last like 4 weeks. The last 4 weeks I've been in this room pretty much all day, like working and doing things like that. That it sometimes can get lonely. I've said that before. I've felt that, and I've felt that loneliness. But then I'm reminded of friends back home because they've either texted me or they've called me, and that's what's really, really cool. And being able to talk with those friends that are here in Hungary, but then also back in the States, it allows me and gives me that opportunity to share what God is doing here. And I think you'll be blessed when you hear what your friends are doing during quarantine, or maybe what they've been going through emotionally or spiritually, or what have they been reading. I think it's very easy to isolate ourselves in quarantine. That's one thing I've definitely learned during this quarantine time is it's very easy to just want to isolate yourself because you're like, everyone else is doing it, so why don't I? But again, I think that goes back to why I wanted to go outside, because I knew I was isolating myself, but not in I felt like it wasn't a bad way. It was like getting outside, and if I saw people, I would talk to them, but I was getting that fresh air instead of staying in one room, which I think can drive most of us crazy. It didn't drive me crazy yet, but it's definitely been a blessing to talk with friends, like I said. And I encourage you, and this is the one I really wanted to hit on, because I think I wanted to encourage you by during quarantine. I don't know how much longer it's going to last. Here it could last a couple more weeks, it could last a couple more months. Back in the States, who knows how long. But in this time, I think it's very easy to isolate ourselves with our families, which is fine. I'm not against being with your family, but reach out to your friends that are alone, the elders in your community, the elders in your church. Believe it or not, it's tough for them. Imagine not being able to leave or not wanting to leave would be very hard. And I also think a lot about a lot of my college friends that have graduated that are living on their own. they're away from family. They're kind of just stuck where they're at. And so I think being with family is a blessing. But let's not forget those friends that are in our lives, those friends that are, um, you know, I think wanting to hear from me. I think we're all wanting to hear from each other. I believe that. I think sometimes it's like reaching out, and like that's one thing I've challenged myself is like reaching out to my friends, not waiting for them to reach out to me, but trying to reach out and try to create those conversations. And I think with talking with friends, I think that also comes into allowing, I think setting aside time. I think it's very easy when we don't have anything really to do and you're working at home. It's very easy to like lose track of time. And I've done that here. But setting aside time saying, hey, 2 hours a night, I want to talk to my friends, or, you know, an hour a night or an hour a week. And I think it's really cool to see people's eyes light up and the smiles on their faces, because what that does is that shows that tremendous joy that you've given them by just sharing your love with them, sharing God's love with them, and listening. And so I think as you, process this time of quarantine, I think those are 5 things that I've done, that I'm continuing to do, that I think would be really cool just to see more people, and maybe even below in the comments, just comment maybe some things that you've done or some cool things that you are trying or continuing to do. So those are my top 5 things. I'll go through those again. My number 1 thing was reading / journaling. My number 2 thing was walking / being outside. And my number 3 thing, the third thing was Netflix, watching Netflix. Number 4 was the abysmal point that I could never speak correctly about, but it was new foods, and trying and making new foods. And then number 5 was talking with friends. And those are my 5 things. I'm interested to hear your 5 things. What are some things that you've been doing? What are some things that you've been able to accomplish? And I think also on top of these 5 things, I wanted to share one thing I've learned during quarantine, just one thing. And that's this: no matter how isolated we feel, and no matter how isolated this world is, our God is never isolating us from him. And I think that is a powerful idea to remember. Just because we feel isolated, just because this world is really isolated away from each other, God isn't isolating us from him, from his glory, from his love, from his will. He's always there, and he's always going to be. And when times get tough like this, it's very easy to not see it. When times are easy, it's really easy to see it. But I think we remember that he's constant. There is no going up and then down with God. It's constant. The love is there. His glory is there. His grace is there. And so I hope that maybe you could take that away too, and maybe also share what God has taught you during quarantine. What is God teaching you? I would love to hear just what God is doing in the lives of my friends and family and people I don't even know. It would be awesome to hear. So once again, those are my 5 things and a lesson that I've learned during quarantine, even though I'm miles away from the US. That's definitely what I've been learning. And hopefully it's encouraging, some funny things, but also encouraging. And I hope you have found what you want to do during quarantine and maybe even learn some things along the way. And so once again, if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. And if you would be so kind to star it, favorite it, follow it every time it comes out, that'd be much appreciated. And if you're watching on YouTube, once again, like always, thank you so much. Make sure you hit that like button and then click that subscribe button and even click the little notification bell, because then you'll know when every video comes out, new episodes of podcasts, of the podcast, and then even new recaps. I have another video of working coming out. So a lot of really cool things. And also a fun little hint, the working video, I might or might not be using a chainsaw. Just going to put that out there. So you'll have to check it out when it comes out. But anyways, thank you so much for listening, for tuning in. And remember, God is faithful and you can trust him. And as always, we'll talk next time.